Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this seminar. Uh, I would like to appreciate the Nigerian management of the Nigerian Bird Atlas Project for giving me this opportunity to present this talk. I would also like to thank our listeners for joining us and also extend my appreciation uh, to my collaborators on this project. Juan Diego, Nazareth, George. This is part of my ongoing PhD study. So, and I'm collaborating with these people on this topic that we'll be looking at this afternoon: drivers of human-nature interactions in southern Nigeria. As we all know, there are currently about 8 billion people on Earth. And by 2050, urban land cover will increase by about 30% as projected. And we know that studies have shown that this urban expansion has negative impact on natural areas, leads to the reduction of natural areas. And with reduction in natural areas, the associated biodiversity also reduces. So urbanization has negative impact on biodiversity because it reduces the amount or the area, the natural areas available for biodiversity to thrive. So not only biodiversity, but then our interaction with biodiversity, with nature in our area is also affected by this urban expansion, and this dissociation between people and nature is termed the extinction of experience. And this phenomenon has actually been investigated more in the global north, I mean in Europe, in America, but little is known about this phenomenon in the global south, especially in Africa. So, and what causes the extinction of experience? The first thing is the loss of opportunity. Like I said earlier, for instance, urban expansion, because with urban expansion, there's reduction in natural areas that are available where people could interact with nature. There's reduction in those areas. So this loss of opportunity leads to extinction of experience because there is huge gap, distance between people and nature. Then the other one is the loss of orientation because there is a loss of opportunities. You don't have natural areas, then people lose affection, affinity. There's no emotional attachment to nature. So the two main causes of this phenomenon are loss of opportunity and loss of orientation. And this has serious consequences. For instance, studies have shown that people that are more connected to nature, connection to nature has positive effect on human health, especially mental health. And then people that are more connected to nature show great deal in terms of pro-environmental behavior. For instance, people that are more connected to nature are more likely to conserve energy, maybe for instance, to put off lights in their houses or to reduce water consumption or to even promote biodiversity in their garden. So the loss of association with nature has serious consequences relating to our emotional attachment to nature as well as our health. Like I said, more studies have been conducted in the global north compared to the global south, and that's part of why we are investigating this in the global south. So, and we are focused on this specific objective to actually identify patterns of contact with nature across socio-demographic groups to see which group and what are the characteristics of the group of people that are more connected to nature, what are the characteristics of people that are more disconnected from nature. So in terms of contact with nature, we are referring to the likelihood of people to touch green areas, to play with flowers, to have contact, to go and watch birds in their vicinity, I mean in the where they live now. Because even if it could be challenging for people to actually go to other places to record to have contact with nature, but then in their areas where they live, we expect that they should have access to nature. So, and if they are not connected to nature, what are the reasons for the large disconnection from nature? As well as if they have contact with nature, they are closely, they have close contact with nature, we expect that they will have the cognitive aspects. I mean, to also investigate if they have this emotional attachment to nature. And then lastly, for the fourth one, we aim to investigate their level of awareness of the environment by looking at their perception of greenness and perception of birds. So we now relate their perception to the real data. For instance, if how their perception of the amount of vegetation in their area, we could relate it using real data sets estimated using through remote sensing. For instance, how the amount of greenness they perceive, we could ask, we ask if it relates to the amount of NDVI values of that particular area, as well as how many types of birds did they think they could see in their areas. Then we related it as well to the number of birds estimated by an expert. So we conducted this study in Nigeria, in southern Nigeria, to be specific, and we could see in terms of landmass, Nigeria is having close to about 1 million square kilometers of land, as well as over 200 million people. That means about Nigeria hosts about 240 humans per square kilometer by mid-2023. That is a lot. And that tells us the amount of urban expansion that is an indication of the amount of urban expansion that is happening in Nigeria. Although despite what is happening, this country is actually blessed with several parks, hotspots, scenic sites, even in urban centers where people could relate with nature. And here you could see the parameters relating to each of the studied cities. You could see the land area, population density, as well as the GDP, which is like an estimate of wealth, or the amount of money that each of these places has. And we could see that Lagos is highly densely populated. It's the most densely populated, although it's also the richest of the cities visited. And like I said, our studies were conducted in cities because a study conducted in central Nigeria by Palm et al. Shows that village people are more connected to nature in Nigeria than urban dwellers. So people that are living in the villages are likely to be more connected to nature, or are even more connected to nature than people that are living in cities. So our interest is now to find out why people in the cities are not connected to nature or are dissociated to nature compared to the rural dwellers. And in order to do that, we conducted field work using different techniques. We did interview. We also collected the real data in terms of NDVI, in terms of the number of birds that were recorded by experts, to relate that to the perception by the people. So to do that in each city, we divided each city into 5 compartments, and in each compartment, we selected 5 points. So, and each point is independent of the other by at least 200 meters. So the points are separated, each point is separated from any other by at least 200 meters. So within the 200-meter radius, we interview people and ask for questions relating to that particular area, because that's the area we also estimated in terms of NDVI, in terms of the real types of bird that could be found in the area estimated by an expert. So in each cities, we visited 25 points, and we were able to do that to correlate that data with data of NDVI and the bird species richness, because we mark each point by using the GPS. So in each point, we interview 6 people, and these 6 people comprise equal number of men and women. So 3 men and 3 women per point. So in total, we interviewed 600 people across the 4 cities. That is 150 people per city. So while we were asking the respondent questions, we asked questions relating to their adulthood, that is now, And then we also ask questions relating to their childhood, that is when they were still between 6 and 12 years old. So we conducted the interview questions between August and November 2021. But then a few months before this, we estimated the NDVI values of this same point, as well as estimated bird species richness by an expert ornithologist, which I did by myself. So during the interview, we collected the data on variables relating to experience of nature, how people experience nature in terms of frequency and duration. As we could see, we asked them questions like, how frequently do you or did you visit natural areas in your area within the 200-meter radius? How frequently do you or did you touch or pick plants or flowers? How frequently did you observe or touch natural places? How long do you normally stay in natural places? That is about contact with nature. It's touch, how you connected to how you touch plant, animal, stay in natural places. But then, like I said, we also collected the information on connection with nature. Contact with nature is touching, but connection with nature is your behavioral tendencies, your emotional attachment to nature, your affinity to nature. As you could see in this photo, we asked participants to tick one that is appropriate for them. For instance, this person and nature are separated, almost completely separated. So this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 is the highest connection to nature, and 1 is the lowest connection. You could see this is overlapping a little bit. So this person is a little bit connected to nature. This one's greater than this. This is greater than this. This is greater than this. This is greater than this. And this one is completely connected to nature. So we ask people to pick which one is more applicable to them. So anyone that picks one means this person is almost dissociated from nature. This person is not connected to nature. But then anyone that picks 7 here is highly connected to nature, which we explained to the participant during the interview. We also collected the variables, opportunity-related variables. For instance, we asked how natural they think, the amount of greenness in their area. This is perception, so that we could relate it to the real value estimated using the remote sensing data, which was estimated through the NDVI. Also, how many varieties of birds could they perceive, they think they could find in their area where they were interviewed within the 200-meter radius. So we related that to the bird species richness, also collected by an expert ornithologist. Then we also asked if they ever lived outside their current cities, because if they lived, then that will also have influence on their human-nature interactions. So these are the socio-demographic variables we collected. We asked for their age, gender, marital status, education, employment status, income, safety perception. So the interview was conducted face-to-face, and then respondents that were not willing to answer the questions were let go without giving, and those that answered did so willingly without actually giving them any amount that could have influenced their decision to participate in the research. We asked for their education, marital status, employment, income, and perception of safety where they live. So we conducted different types of analysis. The first one is latent class analysis. So what this analysis does is to group people together based on their behavioral tendencies. For instance, if you tend to be dissociated from nature, it will put you in one angle based on the different answers you have picked. If you are more likely to be associated with nature, based on the different answers you have answered, it will group you. So it groups people into 2 categories: people that are not connected to nature and people that are more connected to nature. So this particular analysis is useful because in this kind of data, you have lots of variables that could correlate if you just go and do regression analysis with all the variables you have collected. So what this latent class analysis does is it will just pick all of those variables and help you to group the respondents together It's either you are connected to nature based on the answers you have chosen, or you are disconnected from nature. So this allowed us to do that kind of analysis. So it grouped our respondents into two. So, and then the grouping into two, we now used it to perform the Poisson logistic regression and other correlation. As we could see here, the grouping from the latent class divided our respondents into two. That is class 1 and class 2. People that were in class 1 were more dissociated from nature, and people in class 2 are more associated with nature. You could see say differences in nature connected between class 1 low nature contact and class 2 high nature contact. This is from the results of the regression, because the latent class grouped them into two. Then we perform a Poisson logistic regression to put them into the different classes. And like I said, this one has to do with nature connectedness. So it's dealing with the cognitive aspect of nature connection. I mean, the emotional attachment, the affinity with nature. But then the latent class analysis, what it did was to group the participant based on their level of nature contact. So as you could see here, in class 1, which is low nature connectedness, I mean, no nature contact is class 1. Class 2 is higher nature contact. You could see this one is never. So people in class 2, class 1, which is are disconnected from nature, are likely to say never to visit nature. Never is also very prominent here in terms of how often they touch plants. If you go to animal as well, you see people in this class, that is, people that are not so connected to nature, are also highly likely to choose never to touch animal. And then if you come to here, the duration that they stay, you see that people that are more connected to nature are likely to spend more hours in nature. So also, if you come here, the respondent, like we said, in terms of gender, is almost equal. We sampled equal number of male and female. And then if you come to the age, people that are more connected to nature are tended to be younger. You could see this is class 2 is higher connection. You could see their age, the mean age is reduced. If you go to the mean number of children as well, you see people that are more connected to nature have fewer children. If you come to this in terms of marriage, people that are dissociated from nature, that are not connected to nature, are more likely to be married. You see, married people occupy this place, which means, or which could suggest that, for instance, okay, I need to explain this. Like I said, this could imply that the age difference could imply that older people, due to old age, may not visit nature, but younger, more healthy, and you have the power to visit nature. And then the mean number of children, you see, people that are not connected to nature are likely to have more children. And we all know that with the higher number of children you have, more the responsibility. And if you have more responsibility, then there's less time available for you to interact, to contact with nature. So, which could explain our result in this respect. And then this also synchronizes with marital status, because if you are married, you are more likely to have more responsibilities. And with higher responsibilities, you have less time remaining to visit nature. This could be why people that are married are more disconnected from nature in Nigeria than people that are not married. Now, if you look at education as well, you will see that people with higher level of education in terms of university, technical, and secondary education, at least higher level of education, university and polytechnic, technical universities are more likely to be connected to nature. You see, university and technical education are higher in class 2, and class 2 are people with higher nature connectedness. Now, if you also go to the cities, you see the people living in Ibadan are more connected to nature. This is Ibadan here in terms of connection. And if you come here, people that are not connected to nature is likely to be higher among people that are living in Lagos. This result is not so surprising because, for instance, on the one hand, Lagos is the most densely populated, is the most urbanized. And when you talk about urbanization, our result on bird species richness also shows that Lagos has the lowest number of bird species compared to Ibadan. Now, if you come to Ibadan, there is the Ibadan Bird Club that goes out birding every last Saturday of the month. So people that are in Ibadan are more likely to be connected to nature. At least the Ibadan Bird Club will play a role because it provides them the opportunity to visit nature. So this particular result shows that at least if we increase environmental education in terms of formal education, and then if you have clubs like the Ibadan Bird Club operational, then you are more likely to influence people to be more connected to nature. Now, if you go to this employment status, you will see that people that are self-employed show more disconnection to nature. This suggests that these people could prefer to invest more time in their business because they are self-employed to make more income, and that will mean they have less available time for nature contact. Now, this also synchronizes with the result of income because you see people that are more disconnected to nature, they have fewer, they earn less than $73 per month. So this result also synchronizes with this because if you are earning less, then you don't have much time to connect with nature. Then if you come to the reasons that people give for not visiting nature, it relates to the lack of time. They don't have time. Also synchronizing with our initial result about having family responsibility. People don't have money. Also synchronizing with the result I just explained in terms of income. And then people perceive that the lack of natural areas is also a reason for not visiting nature. And one common thing about this is that you will see that these particular reasons are more prominent among class one. And remember, class one are people that are not connected to nature. So people that are more connected to nature also complain more about time. They complain more about money. They complain more about the lack of natural areas. But basically, our results or our study has shown that in Nigeria, the lack of time, lack of money, lack of natural areas, lack of interest are the main reasons people, especially urban residents in Nigeria, are not connected to nature. Now, in terms of safety, perception of safety, you say that perception of neighbor safety is positively correlated with nature connectedness, which means that areas that are safer in terms of security are more like people that are living in safer areas with good security are more likely to be connected to nature, which is hardly surprising. And this also tells us that the need to actually make urban green spaces safer in Nigeria in order to boost human-nature interaction, in order to boost people connection to nature in Nigeria, then urban green spaces have to be safe. If not, the low level of connection to nature, which is very low here compared to other areas such as Europe or North America. The percentage of people that are disconnected from nature in this study is about 55%. When you compare that value to others in other countries in Europe and in America, the mean there is about 10 or less. Whether you are considering green spaces in urban area or visit to other natural patches. Then you could say there's an interaction between nature connectedness and whether during childhood or during adulthood. We will see that for class one, people that are disconnected to nature also show, class two, people that are connected to nature or visited nature less during childhood. They visited less during childhood. What this result suggests is that irrespective of your background, or your childhood, when you are still small, you could still develop affinity, you could still develop strong emotional attachments to nature, which is a very positive development. And you will see that here, this result is perhaps very funny because you see that the amount of real greenness is negatively correlated with perception of natural areas, which means people are not perceiving greenness in their area very well, which could be due to several reasons. Because our study, for instance, investigated the amount of greenness. Maybe people in the areas are not really interested or are not so attracted to the amount of greenness, but particular part of a plant part. For instance, people could be more attracted to flowers or fruits that they could take, and that could be more useful to them than the amount of greenness. And it may also means that their level of perception of biodiversity is also very weak, which agrees with this, because if you correlate how they perceive natural areas and perception of birds is on the same scale, there's positive relationship between their perception of greenness and perception of birds. So it means that there is underestimation. Maybe people are underestimating the amount of biodiversity in their area, or it could also mean that their level of understanding of awareness, probably they don't know the types of birds, or they are not paying attention to it, or underestimation, which also calls for the need for uh, um, more work, I mean, in terms of improving human-nature interactions in the areas. And Nigeria is on the right path through different citizen science initiatives, like what the Nigerian Bird Atlas project is doing with the Bird Club, what the AP Leventis Ornithological Research Institute is doing with the training of experts in terms of biodiversity conservation, which all these activities are now connecting people with nature. Yeah, before I end my talk, some of the limitations of our studies that could be useful for other researchers to also take on and investigate is examine the activities that people undertake in nature. For instance, we were asking for the contact with nature, connection to nature, but then we have to, if you touch animal, if you touch plant, and how you interact with nature, because human interaction with nature has also been shown to also have negative impact on biodiversity. So we need to ask in this context, which our study did not investigate, what people do in nature and how that affects biodiversity. We asked most respondents live outside their current city. 84% of the respondents said they live outside their cities, but we didn't ask where they lived uh, outside their cities. Maybe before they came to their current city, they were living in another city, or they were living in rural, in the adjacent rural area, which could have different implications. So variables that we omitted or that we didn't also ask is the type, quality, and distances of natural environment, and the motivation for visiting them. So all these call for additional research attention that we think people could investigate in the area. So thank you very much for listening.